So for this shot, I'm gonna make another photograph of this bar area, but rather than kill all the reflections and add light, I'm actually gonna embrace the natural light. I wanna show this amazing wine cellar and the way the stairs connect down to this bar, but I don't wanna do it in, again, another simple, dumb, obvious sort of way. That last shot of the bar, it was nice, but it was relatively straightforward. I don't consider that a very creative shot. We used some interesting techniques to remove and add light, but this shot is gonna be a little bit more abstract, a little bit more, interesting, rather than, again, that simple one-point perspective. So before I settled on this angle, I did a quick walk with my camera and my tilt shift lens, just handheld, to get an idea of what I wanted to do. This got some ideas flowing through my head, and I really settled on this tight corner. But before we start here, look at all these other images. I think that while they sort of communicate the space, they're pretty boring and very busy. There's reflections galore, and by simplifying this significantly, we really make for a much stronger and more interesting composition. My goal here is to show a dramatic photograph with interesting lines, interesting light, while you still get an appreciation for how the bar and the upstairs meet together. So I've got my 24mm lens on here. I'm gonna get it in what I think is the right spot and show you how it looks. So here's the vertical shot at 24mm, and there's some good stuff in here, but it's just simply way too wide. I see way too much to the right, way too much of the left. There's distracting reflections on the left-hand side. I'm seeing too much of the bar and too much ceiling. So all I'm gonna do is leave the camera where I am and put on my 1.4 extender just to tighten this up a little bit. And here's what this looks like with that 1.4 extender on. That looks a lot better to me. There's still a couple things I wanna take care of here, but let's talk about what I like. I love that we're using the reflection to show the viewer that there's that amazing wine cellar just out of the frame on camera left. I love that we have this amazing movement of light coming down the stairs, pulling the eye from the dark foreground right up into the light off into the right-hand side. This photo moves wonderfully from left to right, and not only that, but gives a lot of context about what's actually going on. We're hardly literally showing anything here, but we're implying basically everything about the space with this photograph. So let's make a couple quick fixes and finish this off. Something that bothers me is that we have this bar stool in the foreground, so I'm just gonna pull that out because we got plenty of information about those bar stools in the previous photograph. Next, I don't really love that there's so much foreground. I just wanna show a hint of that countertop, and I'd like to see a little bit more light coming down the stairs, hitting the floor at the bottom. So I'm gonna move about a foot forward and put the camera a little bit further into the frame to reduce some of that dark foreground and let more light spill down the stairs. Again, I'm gonna focus using live view about 1/3 of the way into the frame. Okay, so here's the new composition. All right, I personally think that looks awesome. It's super dynamic and has a ton of motion in it, even though it is such a simple photograph. The last thing that's kind of bugging me, and I'm gonna try to play around with it, but I don't know if I'm gonna like it, is just to get that reflection off the bar. All I really want to see is a little bit of the bar, and I'd love to see the veiny texture in there. So Colleen, if you can grab the black cloth, and we'll see if we can do this in maybe 10 seconds or less. All right, so now she's blocking the reflection. I'm gonna take a new shot, and I'm gonna lengthen my shutter speed. I'm gonna go one stop up because that black cloth is blocking some light. I wanna let a little bit more light fall on the bar top. So I've removed the reflection on the bar top. There's one more reflection in the glass window that I want to get rid of. I'm not going to remove the reflection on the front of the glass, which shows the wine bottles behind, but I'm going to have Colleen step in here with my black cloth because what I see is a reflection of the couch, and actually the camera's filming me in that glass. So we're going to get our little black cloth trickery out, and I'm just going to take one photo, and that should take care of that reflection, which is a little bit distracting, and you'll see what I mean right here. And as you can see, that looks much better. There is no more distracting reflection, and we see beautifully right into that wine cellar, and we can understand immediately what's happening there when that reflection has been cut down. I think I've got everything in this photograph just where I want it. I'm gonna have Colleen get out for a second, and I'm gonna bracket. I really only need 3 shots or so. The dynamic range isn't that wide, and we'll take this into post-production and put it together. Okay, here we are in post-production of our bar detail image. This is a really simple shot, and I think we can get away with just using one exposure. If I go to the brightest one here, this one has the most detail as seen in the histogram, but I really like the mood of this, so I'm gonna edit. I mean, that's like a little blown out up there. If you use the J key in Lightroom, you can see what's blown out and what's not. I'm just going to pull the highlights down on this brightest image and see if I can get everything in the realm of normal. I think this is the one. I can always make it darker when I come back into Lightroom, but this is the one I'm going to go with. So I'm just going to pull the highlights down. And there's like this, again, this green that bled into the bar room. I think that's just from the glass behind us is also an issue here. So I'm going to grab the saturation slider in the HSL panel, and I'm going to suck those greens out. And that's really the only thing that's green in here, right? Yeah. So that looks good. And I'm going to, these are the same exposure, right? No, yes, 1.6 seconds. Yeah, so I'm going to borrow that, those adjustments. I'm going to synchronize them with my shot of Colleen and her scrim or her flag right here. I'm going to right click on both of those, edit in, open as layers in Photoshop. Here we go. Okay, here we are in Photoshop. And just like when I added light in the last shot, we're basically removing light here. Same technique. I'm going to add a black layer mask. And just like we're light painting, we're kind of de-light painting here. So I'm going to Alt-click and take my white brush and paint out that reflection that I'm having Colleen block. We get a much richer view into that wine cellar. And you can see the difference there. That reflection's almost totally gone. We run out of flag up top, so I'm going to brush that out. And from here, it's just a matter of cleaning this image up. Let's see. Yeah, there's a little bit of like a line down here from where the flag was too small. So I'll paint that out. But that's looking good. And here you can, I'll just zoom in so you can see the difference. Right? We have this like hazy reflected version and the flag totally cleans it up. I'm going to brighten some of that up. I'm going to take the lasso tool. Go around the darkest part of that wine cellar. And I'm going to add a curves adjustment layer. And I'll just give it a little brightness. So we can really see what's in there. Okay, from here it's just a matter of cleaning up this photograph. I love the light, I love the mood. I'm going to Command Alt Shift E to a new layer. I'm going to name this Clone. And I'm going to use the Content Aware Fill to clean up a lot of these distracting elements. We're going to go for pure architecture here. Okay, there is our cleaned up shot. I'm going to go ahead and save this back into Lightroom. I love this. It feels so cool. What a great detail. Pure light, graphic design with a camera. Light, shadow, shape, form, it's all there. Here's our shot in Lightroom. And remember, we haven't added any contrast to this, any clarity, so this is very flat. I'm going to go ahead and do that now. There's the difference that makes. And I'm going to crop this a little bit. Try like a 5:7. I don't think it needs to be so wide. It could be refined a little bit. And something like that. That feels really nice to me. And I'll get my vertical lines in order. Those are looking good. And a vignette. I'm going to darken the top of this frame a little bit to add some drama. I still feel like there's a little bit of green over there on the right for some reason. Maybe I can just rather than darken, I'm just going to desaturate. There we go. Just desaturated that green on the right. And that looks really, really good. Is the wine too dark over here? Let's see. What am I doing with this? Maybe that's more like here. And the wine is brightened up a smidge. I don't know. Let's just see what happens. Yeah. There we go. Okay. I don't know. Now it's too bright. I'm stuck in between what I want. I think that'll do right there. I love it. Very simple, very clean, very quiet, almost a contemplative mood to this photo. So a great detail. Let's go back on location and find our next photo.